The playoffs are officially over and we're waiting for the Super Bowl. So who are you buying? And let me redo that. I had a different angle for that. The playoffs are over and we've got some head coaching hires. So whose dynasty value has risen? We have 6 players for you to buy this offseason. It's me, Jagger May, and then with me as always is Jeff Bell. And of course, the Chiefs are going to another Super Bowl. This is the Patriots all over again, which as a Patriots fan, I won't complain. I had mine. Jeff, I'm sorry for you as a Bills fan. As you know, did you know that the Bills traded with the Chiefs for Xavier Worthy, and he is my top buy. I know we talked about him a couple of weeks ago with Alfredo, but I think that the conversation, and I know there's only 12 spots to be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy, unless you're in like a 14 or 16 team league. But how close is he to being like a wide receiver 1 at this point, Jeff?
Well, I vividly remember that about mid-season or so, week 10 maybe or so, we did one of these episodes and I called Xavier Worthy a buy. And the comments and the blowback on all that was thought I was crazy. And here we are now. He's definitely a buy. Well, he was a buy, and he
He's
still is a
he's
buy.
Yeah, he's wide receiver 25 on Keep Trade Cut right now. Because
Yeah.
I was just like, surely we don't need to talk about him again. And then I go and Keep Trade Cut. I'm like, we kind of need to at this point because he keeps balling out. I was wrong. I was wrong on Worthy. I'll let it, I don't, I have a couple of shares of Worthy, but I wasn't all in like I could have been at his cost.
Yeah, I know. In one league, I was able to flip Calvin Ridley and Zach Ertz towards the end of the season to get Xavier Worthy, and I really enjoyed that trade. And yeah, that helps me win a league. But no, I think that we see now that it's very clear that he is developed and they know what they want him to do. He's not just a deep shot player. They are able to get him the ball on all different areas and he's able to create after the catch. And so that speed shows up in those areas. And I think that that's what we see really kind of when we're talking about these rookies. That's kind of one of the things that we see over and over again is our traditional view of a player like Xavier Worthy is a deep route, 9 route type player given his speed. But NFL teams have figured out how to get those players in space and figured out, hey, when you get him in space and you give him the ball that he can run, he's really fast there too. That really works really well for fantasy football. And it's going to play very, very well with the schemes that Andy Reid is able to work up, with Patrick Mahomes obviously able to get him the ball. The sky is the ceiling, basically. He's going to continue to rise. And that is a great call out, great value there on Xavier Worthy.
Yeah, I'm in on him. I sold him to you, but like I said, I don't mess around with quarterbacks. If I don't have to, I'm gonna pay for one. But I mean, if he's still going for wide receiver 25 at this point, realistically, you can trade first rounds right now to get Xavier Worthy. I keep people think I'm crazy. I'm not saying that Ashton Genty isn't like a great 101, but if I am not solid at wide receiver, I am trading that 101 and going and get a wide receiver. Whether I'm getting a Dunze plus or I'm just trading straight across. I'm at the point where I think a Dunze is just worth a 101. And I don't want to spoil that, but he's a buy later on. Before we go any further, go ahead.
Well, it's interesting too that when you look at Worthy, if you walk back his season, it was the Bills' loss in about the middle of the season when they really said our offense isn't working right now. We need to figure out what we need to fix here, and we need to get Xavier Worthy involved. And from that point forward, he was more actively involved. Patrick Mahomes' fantasy points jumped from that point forward. They just became a better offense because they figured out, well, if we're going to beat Buffalo, we need to involve him, and that's what we have to do. And that's exactly what did happen.
Yeah. It's exactly. And I mean, that's why we have mesh plays. That's why we have deep crossers. There's ways to, especially motion. Xavier Worthy gets used in motion a whole lot. Someone that we were talking about pre-show that's a rookie. We don't know we're not talking about rookies, but Matthew Golden, he's another one where, our colleague Alfredo, he's like, well, I'm worried about him in man. I'm like, for sure, just do what you do with Worthy, and he's got 20 pounds on him. I'm sure it'll be fine. Just move these plays around, and it should be okay, way into Worthy. We actually got another Chiefs player coming up. Before we move any further, hit the like and subscribe button. You want to subscribe at this point right now, because Jeff and I are cooking up our rookie guide. It's one of the biggest things that we do in this offseason, especially when you guys get your extra startups that you're doing, especially when you get into your rookie drafts. This is what you want. We're going to have 3 versions. Version 1 is going to come out pretty soon, whenever it's done, which is soon. So I won't give you any hard deadlines. You'll want to check that out ASAP. So hit the like, subscribe, and go to footballguys.com and sign up today. All right, Jeff, you think that the other guy, Hollywood Brown, that I think this was the Chiefs' hedge bet. If Worthy doesn't work out, we have Brown, or if Rashee Rice gets hurt, we have Brown, and it seems to be working out. And you think he's a big buy right now?
Yeah, wide receiver 60 on keep trade cut. So that kind of tells you you're talking about wide receiver 60. It's a punt almost at this
That's
point.
nothing.
And, you know, he landed here with Patrick Mahomes. I think there was a lot of excitement, and probably rightfully so, the amount of excitement with that landing spot. Obviously, the injury took out most of his season. I think what really happened was they intended to use him in what the role has become for Xavier Worthy. They wanted to use Xavier Worthy as that field stretcher, use Brown in that role, and then after a year, probably let Brown walk or figure out what was going to go on there. And that's when you transition Worthy into there. Well, Brown was injured and they were forced to move Worthy in there. And that's kind of left Brown as an auxiliary, a secondary piece. I thought the big game was coming the way that he started out of the Bills. I think he caught the first 2 passes, but then he's pretty quiet for the rest of the game. It's one of these that at any moment, especially in the Super Bowl, I mean, we're 2 weeks away from the Super Bowl, he catches a big play on the Eagles. That's going to trigger in a lot of people's minds of, wait, it's Hollywood Brown. He's back. We remember what he was. And I think that's potentially lurking. I think the other thing that's potentially lurking is he hits free agency and you've got a desperate team that's looking for a starting wide receiver. You don't know where he's going to land, and he could land in a situation that really needs him and relies on him. Or, you know, maybe he goes back and reunites with Lamar Jackson. Maybe he stays in Kansas City. There's a lot of different options for Hollywood Brown, and I think there's a lot of easy paths for him to realize value off a wide receiver 60 valuation.
Yeah, and again, like, I have Tankathon pretty much up all the time right now. The top of the draft, all these guys could use a Hollywood Brown. The Titans could use Hollywood Brown. The Browns could use Hollywood Brown. The Giants, Patriots, Jacksonville, Vegas, Jets. I don't think Malachi Corley's it. Why not just get who you hope he'll be? Carolina. Literally, you could directly correlate almost the draft order to who has a QB and wide receiver and who doesn't at this point, if you really think about it.
But the back of the draft is where I want him to go, because you're sitting there with Washington, you're sitting there with the Rams, you're sitting
Buffalo,
Houston with Buffalo, Houston with Tank Dell questions, the Chargers. I mean, there are a lot of fun landing spots for him that they could go out and like I said, realize a lot of value off wide receiver 60.
And the thing with Hollywood Brown is he is a wide receiver 2 at heart, and that is a good thing, meaning that he's pretty scheme versatile. That there's a spot for him. You could keep him in the slot, you can put him in the Z flanker. Unless, I don't really see him in a 49ers offense. They're really big on timing and blocking, and that's not his game. But they're also not a wide receiver needy team, so I'm not really worried about him. And at wide receiver 60, especially those 3rd round picks, if you've got multiple of them, go flip one for Hollywood Brown or something, and go get a veteran. And you may not even want to just keep him on your roster. That's someone that you could trade for a future seconds for later, and really maximize that value.
What do you think, February 26th of 2024, what do you think Darnell Mooney's rank was in wide receivers in Dynasty?
Probably like 80, like really
wide receiver 90.
Oh, okay.
That was before free agency. He landed with Atlanta. He's wide receiver 45 now. So that just tells you the kind of you're operating in a somewhat similar age range. I mean, 27-year-old Darnell Mooney went from wide receiver 90 to wide receiver 45, and it was really kind of just like a 1,000-yard season. I think we think that Hollywood Brown as a wide receiver 2 of 1,000-yard season is still within his range of outcomes.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I did my first best ball draft for 2025, and Darnell Mooney's values pretty high. Like, I don't know. I
Yeah,
know he had an alright season. It's like I was like, are we that in the Darnell Mooney? Um,
but
I guess I get it.
that yeah, that's the type of thing that we're looking for when we're talking about these dynasty buys, though. We're looking for these players. I'm looking for two different things with these dynasty buys. I'm looking for a player that I know is good, that he just didn't really have a good season for whatever reason. For Hollywood Brown, it was the injuries. Darnell Mooney was kind of stuck behind DJ Moore and kind of a mess of an offense there with Justin Fields. Lands in a better situation. Hollywood Brown either becomes a better situation because he's healthy for a full year playing with Patrick Mahomes, or he goes and lands in a better situation.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's to me this is a good bet, and I doubt it's gonna. You're paying so little for it, it's not like it's gonna backfire. It's not like you're blowing seconds on
Yeah.
garbage or something like that. Um, my next buy is Trevor Lawrence. Liam Cohen finally signed them, regardless of what you think of that or how it happened. It's corporate America. That's all I got to say. It's a great thing for all the Jaguars there, particularly Trevor Lawrence. I've been saying he's a buy. I've been buying him myself. If you need a quarterback, especially if you have a top pick, go send it for Lawrence right now. Go send it for Lawrence. I mean, he's going for late first right now in rookie drafts, and I would take that 10 times out of 10. I know Jackson Dart's getting a lot of buzz. I don't know about you, Jeff. I would rather have Trevor Lawrence with Brian Thomas Jr. than a Jackson Dart, in the hope that he lands in a good spot and that he's actually good. So, it's
Well,
I don't know what we're doing here.
let's really talk about it. Would you Trevor Lawrence or a guy like Shadur Sanders or a guy like Cam Ward? I mean, where are you
It's
there?
Trevor Lawrence, man. Like, I set the 102 comfortably straight across for Trevor Lawrence, and I felt when Ben Johnson didn't go there, I was like, and then Liam Cohen went there, and I felt great. If
Yeah.
Cliff Kingsbury went there, I would feel pretty good about it. The bar is low for that offense to have success at this point, and Liam Cohen now, there's a reason why he was going to be the highest paid offensive coordinator. There's a reason why we've seen this resurgency with Baker, and they have weapons there. We have Brian Thomas Jr. We have another guy that we're going to talk about as our next buy. Evan Ingram's still there. Moreover, they still have high draft capital, and they're in best available mode right now. Yeah, you have Brian Thomas Jr. You can get someone like Luther Burden, and that'll be helpful. Or really, they should be getting a tackle or defense or something with that pick. But
Go to the line. Yes. Get some linemen,
yeah,
please, for Trevor
get yeah.
Lawrence.
Go get offensive linemen, but you still have Travis Etienne there. You still have
Yeah.
Tank Bigsby there. So really, if they just don't blow the offseason, the floor is there, and the floor's been there for Lawrence all season. So it's like to answer Jeff. I'm a big Shadur guy. It's not even close for me right now. I'm gonna take Trevor Lawrence because I know what I have, and I know what it takes for him to be good.
It's one of those that it's the mystery box versus and we talked I think a couple weeks ago about Lawrence. Really, it's just that the expectations were so high
Mm-hmm.
coming in for him, that he was supposed to be a Peyton Manning or an Andrew Luck or like the highest of the high, basically. And I mean, if you really watched him, he wasn't that player. He just, those expectations were too high always from the beginning. But that doesn't mean he's not a very good NFL quarterback, and it doesn't mean he's not an excellent fantasy quarterback. We've seen him be a quarterback one in the past already at this point in his career. And if we think he's getting the best coaching of his career, Brian Thomas is the best player, wide receiver he's ever had in his career. You're only looking up there. And again, you're looking up from a player that's already been a top 12 quarterback.
Yeah. And you said the word. We've already seen that floor. We've already seen more for Trevor Lawrence right now in his career than we saw from Baker Mayfield in his career. And then look where he's at. Look at Sam Darnold. Look at Geno Smith. If it can happen for those guys, I feel pretty good about betting on Trevor Lawrence. I don't know. It's just it's crazy, guys, and I know it's the mystery box thing. Just go get Trevor Lawrence. Let someone else hope that it works out. Because I mean, let's put it this way: and I'm not trying to prove some people right. Caleb Williams should have been your top pick. You can't go back and redo your process, or Jaden Daniels. Either way, I get why you should have those guys up high. But I mean, wouldn't you have rather have had just Trevor Lawrence for cheaper than what you paid for Caleb Williams? If you're thinking about, hey, Caleb Williams is going to be my guy, I'm going to draft him 101, then I'm immediately competitive. That didn't really happen for you. Now you can actually trade that pick for someone that we have a lot more evidence could be that guy to put your team over the next level than making that bet. That even with the prospect like Caleb Williams, weird stuff can happen. So I don't know.
It's one of those that I think just kind of look at these players that have produced for fantasy in the past and that we think are pretty good players, but for whatever reason, the dynasty valuation attached to them has decided that they are not as good as they actually have been. Those are always players that are capable of rebounding and realizing value, and those are always dynasty buys.
Yep, I agree 1,000%. All right. We're going to stay in the same team. Parker Washington here. This is another freebie role, in my opinion. He's wide receiver 75 on Keep Trade Cut. I liked him a lot. I'm not saying he's Puka Nakua, but he was a Puka Nakua type player, just really tough. Use him in motion, does all the dirty work in here. I liked him a lot, and he showed us a little bit of flashes towards the tail end of the season.
So I've got different archetypes with my selections that we've gone through the show. And Hollywood Brown was kind of the one that has been good in the past, that can be improved, that can be go back there. Parker Washington he's sitting behind Christian Kirk when you look at a depth chart right now. Christian Kirk can be released for significant cap savings for the Jaguars, and Christian Kirk was injured last year. And Parker Washington was pretty good when he played. From week 13 on, he was wide receiver 34. So that tells you, I mean, you're wide receiver 3 range, but he made plays. We saw that. We saw that with our eyes. Christian Kirk, if he is a cap casualty, you will have by Parker Washington season like no other in Dynasty. He's wide receiver 77 right now on Keep Trade Cut. And if that one move happens, and it's really interesting because the Jaguars are set up not only for a potential release of Christian Kirk to realize savings, they could do the same thing with Evan Ingram, because both of those players were signed, if you remember, a couple of years ago as free agents for Doug Peterson there, and they were given these big balloon contracts that kind of they were given a lot of money on the open market. Early on, the number was lower because they wanted to take advantage of Trevor Lawrence being in kind of that rookie contract window, and then they put balloons on the end of them, and they are either going to need to be released, so that is addressed, or they're going to have to be restructured. And the reality is, it's probably going to be a release with Christian Kirk coming off that injury and getting to age 30. You're kind of at that point now, and if that happens, Washington is going to be, everybody will be trying to buy him.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it's more, I think his value will balloon and then you're going to flip him.
Yep,
type thing.
Exactly. You got it. Yeah. You got it, Jag.
Yeah. It's not like you're going to buy him because you're making him an integral piece. You're buying him and then everyone's like, oh, he's the wide receiver too. Then you're going to sell him because basically after Brian Thomas Jr., and when I say replaceable, Evan Ingram is a solid player. Christian Kirk is a solid player, but they are replaceable in the draft right now. Like right now, the guy that you had the perfect comp for, you can get Harold Fannin Jr. right now in the second round if you want to, and then you can just get a younger Evan Ingram, and you don't have that inflated contract, and you can use that money elsewhere to help out your team.
Well, they might already have that. They used a second round pick on Brenton Strange. He was pretty productive when given opportunity, and that's another thing to look for. So one kind of some of the flags to look for is look for players that are actually going to, the starter from them is a free agent that's going to be off the roster, but also look for high contracts like that Christian Kirk that they could be released and open it up. And you hit at the point exactly. You flip these guys because more often than not, they have been viewed as a backup with the organization. They kind of that opens it up and us in Dynasty decide he's going to be the starter, but in the organization's mind, they've already decided, well, he's a good wide receiver 4 for us, a good wide receiver 5 for us. And we're going to go out and we're going to either replace in free agency or we're going to use high draft capital. And more often than not, almost all the time, whenever a starter moves on either from free agency or a cap casualty, teams spend significant capital or significant money in free agency to bring in another starter. The idea that these guys climb up the depth chart doesn't happen as much as what maybe we think in our mind.
Yeah, and the one reason why I point to the draft is I haven't looked on the defensive side of the ball. At least on offense, this is one of the weaker free agencies I've ever seen. With like,
It's bad.
I don't think T Higgins is leaving. I don't think
No.
Everyone has made it clear.
It always happens. Every single
Yeah.
time we get excited about the top 10 guys and then they're tagged by day 2 and we're like, okay, well, what's next?
Yeah, it's like T. Higgins wants to stay in Cincinnati. Jamar Chase wants him to stay Cincinnati. Joe Burrow wants him to stay in Cincinnati. He fired his agent to go so him and Jamar Chase could have the same agent so they could figure it out. Like I just don't think it's real unless something catastrophic happens at this point. So like I'm looking at some of these other guys that we've looked at. I'm about to look at Jimmy Horn Jr. Ja'Cory Brooks, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Royals, Ty Felton. These are the type of wide receiver 2 archetypes that could go in there right away in like the 2nd or 3rd round. And Parker Washington is back to being Parker Washington, just
not
like
only,
that.
Not only that, he's got a major injury to come back from. Chris Godwin was with Liam Cohen last year.
I forgot about Chris Godwin.
The emergence of Jalen McMillan there opens up the door. That might be a tag they might resign him, but at the same time, that's his old offensive coordinator. And if you're going to say, I'm trying to install my offense here, Chris Godwin knows what my offense is. And he does have a major injury that he's coming back from, but that's another avenue where they could say, we have Brian Thomas locked in for 5 years, for 4 years on this rookie contract. We are able to go out and spend some money for the wide receiver 2 or the wide receiver 1B within this offense. And that relationship is there. And that's another thing to look for with these coaching changes is when you see an offensive coordinator go become a head coach or something to that effect, and there's a trailing free agent that they can bring along, you kind of have to put that in your mind.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. And you've actually made me change my next buy at this point because like I just rechecked Roma Dunze's value and it's getting up there a little bit. It's Jalen McMillan.
The Ben Johnson move. Yeah.
The Ben Johnson. I didn't get ahead of it. Yeah. It's like, so yeah, the window's shut, guys. So trade your first to go get him or whatever you can, but he's not like incredibly cheap anymore. But Jalen McMillan is. He's still wide receiver 32 on Key Trade Cut, and I'll buy that all day, every day. It's not even like close. I'm gonna put out trades right now. The question is how do you acquire him? Because are you going to trade a late first for Jalen McMillan at this point, Jeff?
I mean, you're in the ballpark. So we are doing the rookie guide. We are looking at wide receivers. Are there late first wide receivers you like more than Jalen McMillan right now?
Not with that situation.
Yeah.
Jalen McMillan has Baker Mayfield right now. And I know we get scared about Liam Cohen leaving. Is it really that bad at that point? That'd be my only question. Is it just like, are they toast now with the Bucks?
And the thing of it is, we're at the point now where people, especially if you're making Dynasty content, you got to stop talking about like the 111. You got to put some player names there. And we, as you look at it, we know, well, certainly it's not going to be Tech McMillan. It's probably not going to be Luther Burden. It's probably not going to be Emeka Ibuka. So you're kind of dealing maybe like the Matthew Goldens of the world, or you're looking at a running back. And you're not looking at a Marion Hampton. You're probably not looking at Caleb Johnson. You're looking at like a Quinshon Judkins type, and you're looking at that and straight up, would you rather have Quinshon Judkins or Jalen McMillan? given what we saw from Jalen McMillan and given what we saw from Baker Mayfield. I mean,
Yeah, just positional value alone, I like to bet on good wide receivers who are young. It just I'll take it a step further. Chris Godwin might be gone. Mike Evans isn't going to be there forever. He's just not. So I feel like Jalen McMillan is the future there in Tampa. So regardless of who's calling plays, I'd be willing to sweat it out. So yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Matthew Golden. I think Jackson Dart might creep up there if people keep up. Elick Ayominor. A lot of these wide receivers, I like them a lot, but they're not the scheme-proof studs like a Dunze, MHJ, Brian Thomas. They're not that. They're going to need a good situation to be good. It's more like we have a lot of Jordan Addisons this year. I feel like a lot of Jordan Addison type players, and most of the time, I'd rather know that they're in that good position like the Vikings than they're going to go somewhere. I don't know. It's like the Raiders. I don't know what's going on there. I don't want any part of it. So.
And one of the things that I like about you calling out Jalen McMillan here, and one of the things that I like to look for is those second year players that have been good, but at the same time, like we do the Sunday morning start sit show, and Jalen McMillan wasn't even mentioned as a potential start sit until week 14, week 15, basically. So basically, you had the entire rookie year where people weren't even thinking about putting him into their lineup. Then you had the fantasy playoffs, or they were either eliminated or they were not sure if Jalen McMillan should actually be in their lineup or not. And so, kind of that seed of doubt is sitting there, but then at the same time, we have seen him be very good, very productive to close the end of the season. So it's like you've seen that flash, but you got it at the right time when half the people were checked out anyways, or half the people weren't even setting a lineup at that point, and you can kind of maybe sneak something out.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, wide receiver 32, guys. To me, he has wide receiver 2 upside, and you're getting him at wide receiver 3 costs. It's another one. When I take a break from work, I'm gonna try to go acquire some. We're gonna end on the tight end, Chig Okonkwo. I'm gonna be honest, Jeff. I was shocked at this one here. Are you back on Chig? Are we gonna try to make this happen again?
From week 12 on, who was tight end 10?
He was. I'm assuming. I mean,
Travis Kelce was tight end 10 from week on. But Chig Okonkwo was tight end 12, and he was 0.4
okay.
points per game in half PPR less than Travis Kelce from week 12 on. And really, what happened? New coaching staff came in, and they weren't sure what they had with much of anything. Obviously, then the DeAndre Hopkins trade happened. They again weren't sure what was they really had. And if you go back to walk through the Titans season, they had that upset of the Texans. And toward the end of that upset of the Texans, Chig Okonkwo broke that big play where they kind of made you say, oh, what's going on here? From that point forward, he was heavily involved in the offense, heavily productive. He was very good. He was tight end 12 over almost the last second half of the season. Now you're looking at the Titans here. Titans have the number 1 pick in the draft. And do you think the Titans quarterback situation is going to be better next year than it was this year?
It doesn't sound like it. I don't know what they're gonna do.
You don't think it's good? You don't. I mean, like, let's say, okay, door A is a Sam Darnold if he gets to free agency, maybe
That's better.
a Aaron Rodgers, or
That's
maybe
better.
like Shadur Sanders. Like, we like Shadur
Much
Sanders
better.
enough to take him number 1 overall.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be Will Levis and Mason Rudolph.
No.
So you're already looking at a situation where the surrounding environment's going to get better. Year 2 of Brian Callahan being there in Tennessee, you would think that's going to be better. So if the quarterback play is going to be better, year 2 with the coach is going to be a little bit more comfortable. Maybe they go out, maybe they add a wide receiver with their early second round pick or something like that. But you're looking at really outside of Calvin Ridley, what do they have? I mean, we know we had Nick Westbrook and Keeney that catches a touchdown every single week, but there's a lot of opportunity here for Chig Okonkwo to be a very valuable piece of this scheme and to be in a much better situation with a much better quarterback. and you're talking about keep trade cut tight end 25. It's
Yeah.
just like completely forgotten about. And the idea, like you even did on the lead in, the idea of Chig Okonkwo becoming a thing is laughable at this point to a lot of people. Those are the shots that you want to take. A player that was very productive, that was involved in the offense, that we know the environment should get better, that is just completely forgotten about because he didn't hit when we thought he was going to hit. He didn't hit when we got all excited about its Chig season. But you look at Jonnu Smith and you look at Jonnu Smith's profile. What worked for Jonnu Smith? The athleticism, the ability after the catch, and that became a vital part of the offense. And Chig Okonkwo can bring a lot of those same things, that he can become a yak type player underneath. He can become that player that just ends up getting 8 to 10 targets per game and is able to run with the ball after the catch. It's exactly what you're looking for in tight end right now in the NFL landscape.
Yeah. I agree. It's a free shot. I know. Right now, I'm working on a mock draft that we're going to talk about later this week. I'm gonna mock Travis Hunter 101 there, just based off the smoke that's been saying, and I think, like you said, they're gonna get Sam Darnold, or I mean, I could even see Gardner Minshew getting another shot somewhere, because I don't think Gardner Minshew's Raiders run is a knock on Gardner Minshew as a player, but even with that level player, it's better than what we got with Will Levis. Um, I do think that we got to think about Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Those are other two pieces that are out there. I know Russell Wilson might be a Raider, that there's been smoke of that happening. And I think that if that happens, Justin Fields is going to be a Steeler at that. But I'm just saying that those chess pieces are still there. So I get the move. And to me, this is another one where I would wait on the value to gain. Maybe, I don't know. He's cost nothing, and then I'm going to trade him for it. Because again, tight end's so deep, I could see them just drafting another one. I also don't know what Brian Callahan is, and they got a new GM, so I just don't know what they're looking for yet. So if anything, I'm kind of proving your point of why you should bet on him, because we just don't know.
Those are the players you buy, Jack. These are the players you buy. You don't buy the I love him. He's been lighting up the playoffs, and there is certainly room to gain value off that. You buy the players where you say, "Man, I mean, I don't know," but then at the same time, well, yeah, I mean, he did make plays, and that's a dynasty buy.
Yeah. Well, that'll do it, folks. Like I said, we're going to be going over our first NFL mock draft. We're going to be hitting the NFL draft really, really hard up until this point. That's what it is for Dynasty season. It's the only time that we get to replenish our players for free for draft picks. So me and Jeff are going to have that rookie guide. Hopefully we might have Cecil on to talk some Shrine Bowl. We're going to talk about the ups and downs of the Senior Bowl as they happen. And yeah, so we'll see you on the next time. I'm Jagger. That's Jeff Bell. Love you. And we will get you next time.